Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive on something that I think affects all of us.
Yeah.
Inflammation.
Yeah, for sure.
Like when you stub your toe and you get that redness and swelling. Well, that's inflammation.
Yeah.
It's our body's natural defense system, right?
Right.
But when that defense system is constantly on high alert,
Yeah.
like a fire alarm that won't shut off,
Exactly.
that can cause some issues.
Yeah.
So we're going to be using how to reduce inflammation. 10 best science-backed solutions to guide us today.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So get ready for some practical tips and maybe even some surprises
Yeah.
along the way. So I think to start off,
Yeah.
it's always helpful to kind of go back in time.
Yeah.
Has inflammation always been a problem for humans?
Oh, absolutely. It's not a new problem at all.
Oh, wow.
We're not the first ones to deal with this by any means.
Okay.
Ancient Egyptians, for example, they even had their own remedies and things for inflammation back then.
Wow. So it's definitely not a new problem.
Yeah.
But why should we care so much about it today?
Well, here's the thing. Chronic inflammation is now linked to some serious health issues.
Okay.
I'm talking heart disease,
Oh, wow.
cancer,
Yeah.
and even mood disorders.
Really?
So it's not just about feeling better,
Yeah.
It's about protecting your long-term health.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes it clear why this is so important.
Right.
So where do we even begin? It feels like everything causes inflammation these days.
Yeah, it can definitely feel that way.
Yeah.
But the good news is we have a lot of control over it
Okay.
through simple lifestyle changes.
Great.
Let's start with your diet.
Okay, food is medicine.
Yes.
I love that.
So this isn't about deprivation.
Okay.
It's about making delicious choices.
Give me the good stuff. What should we be eating to fight inflammation?
Well, think, vibrant colors
Okay.
and variety.
Okay.
So leafy greens are packed with antioxidants.
Okay.
And those are compounds that help protect your cells from damage.
So like little bodyguards.
Exactly. They're like tiny ninjas fighting off those inflammatory troublemakers.
I love that analogy.
Then there's fatty fish, like salmon and tuna.
Okay.
They're full of omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA.
Okay.
They're like the superheroes of the anti-inflammatory world,
Amazing.
working at the cellular level to calm things down.
Okay, so we've got our leafy greens, our fatty fish.
Yes.
And who doesn't love berries?
Oh, berries are great. They're delicious and good for you.
They are.
Berries are rich in anthocyanins, another group of compounds that help reduce inflammation.
Wow, so we're talking about actual, like, measurable improvements, not just feeling a little bit better.
Exactly. It's not just about feeling good. It's about real changes in your body.
Okay, I love that. And it's
Yeah.
not all about what we eat, though, right?
Right. Exercise is a game changer.
Okay.
It's like hitting the reset button on inflammation.
Okay.
And we're not talking about crazy workouts here.
So I don't have to run a marathon.
No. Finding movement you enjoy is key.
Okay, that's a relief. But how does exercise actually reduce inflammation?
Well, for one, it helps reduce that stubborn belly fat, what
Okay.
we call visceral fat, which is a major contributor to inflammation.
So getting rid of that spare tire is a win-win.
Exactly. Plus, exercise releases these cool chemicals from our muscles called myokines.
Iokines. Okay.
They're like our body's own anti-inflammatory agents.
Wow. And how much exercise are we talking about here?
The sweet spot is around 150 minutes of moderate activity,
Okay.
like brisk walking, or 75 minutes of vigorous activity like running per week.
Okay, got it.
But, even breaking it down into smaller chunks throughout the week can make a big difference.
Yeah, that's totally doable. But let's be honest, life gets busy.
It does.
Between work and family and everything else, it's tough to always prioritize things like sleep and managing stress.
I hear you, but here's why those are so essential.
Okay.
When we sleep, our bodies produce those anti-inflammatory compounds we need.
Okay.
It's like an overnight repair crew, calming things down.
So skipping sleep is like sabotaging our own anti-inflammatory efforts.
Pretty much. And stress. Well,
Yeah.
stress is like throwing fuel on the fire of inflammation.
Hmm.
That's where stress management comes in.
Okay.
Techniques like meditation or deep breathing can actually help.
So taking a few deep breaths can actually help reduce inflammation.
Absolutely. It's more powerful than you might think.
I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Did you know there's a nerve called the vagus nerve that runs from your brain all the way to your gut?
Oh, I didn't.
Well, stimulating it can actually help calm inflammation.
Wow. So we can tap into our body's own, like, calming system.
Exactly. It's like having a secret weapon against inflammation.
I love that. Okay, so we talked about food, exercise, sleep, stress management.
Mm-hmm.
What else can we do to fight inflammation? Are we just scratching the surface here?
We are. Sometimes our bodies need a little extra support,
Okay.
and that's where nature's pharmacy comes in.
Ooh, I love it.
Remember how ancient cultures used natural remedies for inflammation?
Yeah.
Turns out some of those remedies are backed by science.
I love that. Okay, what are we talking about here?
Turmeric, for example, has been used for centuries,
Okay.
and for good reason. It contains a powerful compound called curcumin,
Right.
which has remarkable anti-inflammatory properties.
Wow. I knew turmeric was good for you, but I didn't know it was that powerful.
It's pretty amazing.
Wow. What else? What else is in nature's pharmacy?
Ginger is another great option.
Okay.
The active compounds in gingerols, and show gels
Yeah.
are powerful inflammation fighters.
Okay, great.
And if you're not getting enough omega-3s from fatty fish,
Okay.
supplements can help.
Okay, that's good to know.
But always talk to your doctor before starting any new supplements.
Yeah, that's important.
Especially if you're taking medications.
Okay, good advice.
Yeah.
Now, I'm really curious about this whole gut health connection.
Yeah.
I know it's important for digestion, but what does it have to do with inflammation?
It's pretty amazing, actually.
Okay.
Your gut is like a vast inner ecosystem.
Uh-huh.
And believe it or not, it impacts your whole body, including inflammation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this gut inflammation connection.
A healthy gut barrier is key.
Okay.
Think of it as a wall that keeps those inflammatory compounds contained where they belong.
Okay.
And get this, the good bacteria in your gut actually produce their own anti-inflammatory substances.
What? So our gut bacteria are working to keep inflammation in check?
They are. They're little helpers working behind the scenes.
I'd love that.
Yeah.
So how do we keep these like microscopic helpers happy?
Prebiotic-rich foods are key.
Oh.
Things like garlic,
Oh,
onions, and even Jerusalem artichokes.
Jerusalem artichokes. Okay.
They feed the good bacteria in our gut.
So it's like giving them a gourmet meal.
Exactly. And I'm guessing, fermented foods are on the menu too.
I was just going to say, fermented foods. Okay, like what?
Yogurt,
Oh, okay.
kimchi, sauerkraut, they
Yeah.
all contribute to a healthy gut microbiome.
Okay, that makes sense.
But,
Yeah.
we want to avoid things that damage gut integrity,
Yeah.
like excessive alcohol, processed foods, and certain additives.
Okay, so it's all about balance, nourishing the good and minimizing the
Yeah.
bad.
Exactly. It's all about balance.
Now, what about the world outside our gut? Are there hidden sources of inflammation lurking in our environment that we need to be aware of?
Unfortunately, yes, our modern world exposes us to a lot of toxins.
Okay.
And these can definitely trigger inflammation in our bodies.
Okay, time to put on our detective hats. What are we dealing with here?
Air pollution,
Okay.
pesticides,
Okay.
endocrine disruptors, they're everywhere.
Oh, gosh.
These toxins can really wreak havoc on our systems.
Okay, well, I'm all about solutions, so what can we do to minimize our exposure?
Well, air purifiers with HEPA filters can help remove those tiny particles from the air.
Okay,
Investing in a good water filter is essential.
good to know.
And choosing organic produce,
Okay.
especially those on the Dirty Dozen list, can reduce pesticide exposure.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that list.
Even swapping plastic containers for glass or stainless steel makes a difference.
Those are really practical steps.
They are. Small changes can add up.
Okay, good to know. Now, I'm really fascinated by this idea of the mind-body connection
Yeah.
and its influence on inflammation. Can our thoughts actually impact inflammation in our bodies?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ancient practices like yoga, tai chi, and qigong have been shown to reduce inflammation.
Wow.
They're like moving meditations that bring together physical movement, breathing techniques, and mindfulness.
So it's not just about relaxation.
No, it's about making measurable changes in our body's inflammatory response.
I love that. Okay, shifting gears a bit, we talked about the power of hot and cold therapies.
Yes.
Can you give me like a really quick recap of why those are so effective?
Sure. So cold therapy, think ice baths,
Okay.
or even just applying an ice pack to an injury helps constrict blood vessels,
Okay.
which reduces swelling and slows down the flow of those inflammatory chemicals to the injured area.
So it's like hitting the pause button on inflammation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, heat therapy, like a warm bath or a heating pad,
Okay.
increases blood flow to the area, which helps flush out inflammatory substances and promotes healing.
So cold reduces and heat clears.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. What about combining them? Is that a thing?
It is. That's contrast therapy, going back and forth between hot and cold.
Okay.
It's like giving your circulatory system a workout.
Wow. Is there research to support that?
There is. Studies suggest that contrast therapy can be helpful for reducing muscle soreness, improving flexibility, and speeding up recovery from injuries.
Amazing. Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm going to circle back to another topic that we haven't fully explored, hormonal balance.
Yeah, hormones are key.
I know, right? They seem to play a role in just about
They
everything.
really do.
So can you tell me more about how hormonal imbalances can contribute to inflammation?
Yeah, so when our hormones are out of whack, it can definitely contribute to inflammation.
Okay.
We talked about cortisol,
Right, the stress hormone.
right, but other key players like insulin, thyroid hormones, and even our sex hormones can impact inflammation levels.
Got it. So it's not just about managing stress.
Right.
It's about making sure our whole endocrine system is functioning properly.
Exactly. And the good news is that we have a lot of control over our hormonal balance
Oh, good.
through, you guessed it, lifestyle choices.
So all those things we keep coming back to, diet, exercise, stress management,
All of those, they can have a big impact on how well our hormones are balanced.
that makes sense.
And if you're concerned about specific hormonal imbalances,
Okay,
getting tested can give you more personalized insights.
that's a good tip.
Yeah.
Okay, this is all so empowering. It's about becoming more aware of our bodies,
Yes.
understanding how everything's connected,
Exactly.
and making informed choices to support our overall well-being.
I couldn't agree more.
I love that. Okay, before we move on, I have to ask you about something that really piqued my interest. Fasting and time-restricted eating.
Oh, yeah. That's a hot topic right now.
It is, and I'm curious to learn more about how they can help reduce inflammation.
Yeah, great question. They're definitely having a moment, but there's solid science behind them.
Okay, good.
So
Can you break it down for me? Like, what's the basic concept?
basically, by strategically restricting your eating window or incorporating periods of fasting, you're giving your body a break from digestion.
Okay.
This allows it to focus on other important processes like cellular repair and reducing inflammation.
So it's not about deprivation.
No.
It's about giving your body some downtime to do its thing.
Exactly.
I like that.
There are different approaches.
Yeah.
Some people like the 168 method, where you fast for 16 hours and eat within an 8-hour window.
Okay.
Others prefer alternate day fasting, where they swerve between eating normally one day and restricting calories the next.
Okay, so there's a lot of flexibility there.
There is. It's about finding what works for you.
But what are the specific benefits when it comes to reducing inflammation?
Well, research suggests that fasting can improve insulin sensitivity, reduce oxidative stress, that's damage to our cells,
Yeah.
and boost something called autophagy.
Autophagy, you mentioned that earlier.
That's right. It's your body's cellular cleaning crew.
Yes. It gets rid of old damaged cells, making room for new healthy ones.
Exactly.
So it's like hitting the refresh button on our cells.
It is. And it all ties back to reducing inflammation.
Okay.
Fasting seems to lower those pro-inflammatory signals while increasing the anti-inflammatory ones.
Interesting.
It's like giving your body a powerful reset.
This deep dive is blowing my mind. I'm seeing inflammation in a whole new light.
Yeah.
It's not just a nuisance.
Right.
It's this incredibly complex system
It is.
that we can influence in so many ways.
Yeah.
And we've still got more to explore.
I know, right? There's so much more to uncover in our quest to tame the flame. But for now, we need to take a quick break.
Okay, sounds good.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more fascinating insights in just a moment.
All right, we'll be right back.
Welcome back. It's amazing to think about how much we're discovering about inflammation and its impact on our health.
I know, right? We've covered a lot of ground already. Diet, exercise, sleep, stress, supplements, gut health, environmental toxins, mind-body practices, even hot and cold therapy and fasting.
Yeah.
But before we jump into more strategies,
Yeah.
I'm curious about something.
Yeah.
We keep talking about this modern understanding of inflammation, but how did we get here? Have people always known about inflammation?
Oh, absolutely. The history of how we've understood inflammation is fascinating.
Yeah.
It goes back thousands of years. We mentioned the ancient Egyptians, remember?
Yeah.
Their medical texts actually described remedies for inflammatory conditions.
So dealing with inflammation is nothing new.
No, not at all.
But how did we go from those ancient remedies
Right.
to the science we have today?
Well, Hippocrates,
Okay.
the father of medicine,
I've heard of them.
he was really key. He was the first to clearly define those classic signs of inflammation: heat, redness, swelling, and pain.
Wow. So those 4 signs have been recognized for over 2,000 years.
They have. It's pretty amazing.
That is amazing. But what about the 5th sign?
Oh, yeah.
Loss of function.
Right.
When did that come into play?
That one came much later, actually,
Yeah.
in the 19th century.
Okay.
Thanks to a scientist named Rudolf Virchow.
Okay.
He added loss of function to the list, realizing that inflammation could actually stop tissues and organs from working properly.
Okay, that makes sense. Inflammation can definitely make it hard to move or use certain parts of your body.
Exactly.
But today, we know so much more than just those outward signs, right?
Absolutely. In the last century or so, our knowledge of inflammation has exploded, especially with advances in cell and molecular biology.
Wow.
We now know that inflammation is incredibly complex.
Oh,
It involves a whole network of cells, signaling molecules, and pathways.
it sounds like a secret world operating beneath the surface.
It really is.
So what are some of the biggest breakthroughs we've made in understanding how inflammation works?
One of the most important discoveries has been recognizing that there are different types of inflammation.
Okay.
We now know there's acute inflammation.
Okay.
That's the immediate response to an injury or infection.
Okay.
And then there's chronic inflammation.
Okay.
That's the persistent low-grade inflammation that can linger for months, even years.
And chronic inflammation is the real troublemaker, right?
You got it.
It's the one that's linked to all those serious health problems.
Exactly. Chronic inflammation is like a slow burn that can damage tissues and organs over time,
Okay.
contributing to a whole range of issues.
So it can be really serious.
It can.
So understanding that difference,
Yeah,
acute versus chronic,
right.
is key for managing our health.
Absolutely. It's the foundation.
Okay, let's get to like the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
How does inflammation actually work? What's going on at the cellular level?
Well, it's a fascinating cascade of events. Different immune cells are involved, along with chemical messengers called cytokines
Well,
and specialized proteins that basically orchestrate the entire inflammatory response.
wow.
When your body senses a threat, like an injury or infection, it triggers this complex cascade to protect you.
So it's like a well-coordinated defense team ready to jump into action.
Exactly. Our bodies are amazing.
They are. But how does this defense system go wrong and lead to chronic inflammation?
That's the million-dollar question. Researchers are still working on it.
Okay.
But we do know that several things can contribute. Persistent infections,
Very.
autoimmune reactions where your body attacks itself,
Okay.
prolonged exposure to toxins,
Okay.
and even lifestyle factors like a poor diet, lack of exercise, or chronic stress.
So it's not just what's happening inside our bodies,
Right.
but also how we're living our lives.
Exactly. It's a complex interplay of factors.
It can feel a bit overwhelming. Where do we even start to get this under control?
It's actually simpler than you might think. Remember all those delicious anti-inflammatory foods we talked about?
Yeah.
Leafy greens, fatty fish, colorful berries, turmeric.
Uh-huh.
They're packed with compounds that can help cool down inflammation.
Right. And getting our bodies moving, even if it's just a brisk walk, can make a big difference.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of sleep and stress management.
Yeah.
When you're sleep deprived or constantly stressed, your body releases more of those chemicals that fuel inflammation.
Okay, so it's about creating a lifestyle that helps our body regulate inflammation naturally.
Exactly. It's about working with your body, not against it.
I love that. What we eat, how we move, how we manage stress, and even how we protect ourselves from those environmental toxins.
You nailed it. It's not just about feeling better today.
Yeah.
It's about taking care of your health for the long haul
Right.
and lowering your risk of those chronic diseases.
That's a good point. Speaking of long-term health,
Yeah.
I'm curious to learn more about those temperature therapies we touched on earlier,
Okay.
using hot and cold to target inflammation.
Yeah, contrast therapy.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about how that works?
Sure. So cold therapy, like an ice bath,
Okay.
can be really effective for anyone dealing with acute inflammation, that immediate swelling after an injury, for example.
Okay.
It works by constricting blood vessels, which slows down the flow of those inflammatory chemicals to the injured area.
So it's like applying the brakes to that initial inflammatory response.
Exactly. Now, heat therapy, like using a sauna or a hot compress,
Okay.
works in a different way. It actually increases blood flow to the area,
Okay.
which helps flush out those inflammatory substances and promotes healing.
So cold slows down the process and heat helps clear things out.
You got it.
Okay. And some people find that alternating between hot and cold
Right.
is even more effective.
It can be.
Yeah.
It's like giving your body a powerful reset.
I can see how that would make sense.
Yeah.
Getting things moving and flushing out those inflammatory substances.
Exactly.
Is there any research to back up the benefits of contrast therapy?
There is. Studies suggest that contrast therapy can be helpful for reducing muscle soreness, improving flexibility, and speeding up recovery from injuries.
It's a great tool to have in your arsenal.
It is. It's definitely worth exploring.
Okay, I'm definitely going to have to look into that more.
Yeah.
This is all so fascinating. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to another topic that we haven't explored fully.
Yeah.
Hormonal balance.
Right. Hormones are key.
I know. We touched on it briefly, but it seems like hormones play such a crucial role in everything.
They really do. Hormones are powerful messengers in our bodies.
Yeah.
And when they're out of balance, it can definitely contribute to inflammation.
Okay.
We talked about cortisol, the stress hormone, but other key players like insulin, thyroid hormones, and even our sex hormones can impact inflammation levels.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sure.
So it's not just about managing stress.
Right.
It's about making sure our whole endocrine system is functioning properly.
Exactly. And the good news is that we have a lot of control over our hormonal balance through, let me guess,
You guessed it. Lifestyle choices.
all those things we keep coming back to. Diet, exercise, stress management, they all play a role.
They do. They can have a big impact on how well our hormones are balanced.
Okay, that's good to know.
And if you're concerned about specific hormonal imbalances, getting tested can give you more personalized insights.
Okay, good tip. This is all so empowering. It's about becoming more aware of our bodies,
Yes.
understanding how everything is connected,
It's all connected?
and making informed choices that support our overall well-being.
I couldn't agree more.
I love that. Okay, before we move on to our final part,
Yeah?
I have to ask you about something that really piqued my interest. Fasting and time-restricted eating.
Oh, yeah. They are definitely having a moment.
They are. I'm curious to learn more about how they can help reduce inflammation.
Great question. There's solid science behind them.
Okay, good.
So,
Can you break it down for me? What's the basic concept? Basically, by strategically restricting your eating window or incorporating periods of fasting, you're giving your body a break from digestion.
Okay.
This allows it to focus on other important processes like cellular repair and reducing inflammation.
it's not about deprivation. It's about giving your body some downtime to do its thing.
Exactly.
I like that.
There are different approaches.
Okay.
Some people like the 168 method, where you fast for 16 hours and eat within an 8-hour window.
Okay.
Others prefer alternate day fasting, where they switch between eating normally one day and restricting calories the next.
Okay, so there's a lot of flexibility there.
There is. It's about finding what works for you.
But what are the specific benefits when it comes to reducing inflammation?
Well, research suggests that fasting can improve insulin sensitivity,
Okay.
reduce oxidative stress, that's damage to our cells,
Yeah.
and boost something called autophagy.
Autophagy, I remember you mentioned that earlier.
That's right.
Our body's cellular cleaning crew.
Exactly. It gets rid of old damaged cells, making room for new healthy ones.
So it's like hitting the refresh button on our cells.
It is. And it all ties back to reducing inflammation.
Okay.
Fasting seems to lower those pro-inflammatory signals while increasing the anti-inflammatory ones.
Interesting.
It's like giving your body a powerful reset.
This deep dive is blowing my mind. I'm seeing inflammation in a whole new light.
Yeah. It's amazing what we're learning.
It's not just a nuisance. It's this incredibly complex system that we can influence in so many ways. And we've still got more to explore.
I know, right? There's so much more to uncover in our quest to tame the flame. But for now, we need to take a quick break.
Okay, sounds good.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more fascinating insights in just a moment.
Welcome back to our deep dive into inflammation. It feels like we've traveled through time and explored the inner workings of our bodies and uncovered a whole arsenal of tools to fight inflammation.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how much we're learning about this?
Yeah.
And we're not even done yet.
I know, right? There's so much to talk about. So we talked about those
Oh.
ancient mind-body practices earlier.
Right.
Yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong.
Mm.
They can help reduce inflammation too.
They can. They're not just for relaxation.
Right. You mentioned that they could lower those inflammatory chemicals in our bodies.
Yeah.
But how does that actually work? Is it just the exercise?
Well, it's more than just the movement.
Right.
These practices often involve deep breathing
Okay.
and mindfulness,
Yeah.
which can stimulate the vagus nerve.
Okay.
And remember, the vagus nerve is like our body's built-in calming system.
Right.
It helps regulate inflammation throughout the body.
So by calming our minds and focusing on our breath,
Hmm.
we can actually send signals to our body to reduce inflammation.
Exactly. It's like tapping into our body's own natural healing mechanisms.
That's so cool. And there's research to back that up.
There is. Research has shown that people who regularly practice yoga, tai chi, or qigong tend to have lower levels of those inflammatory markers in their blood.
So it's not just ancient wisdom.
Right.
It's backed by science.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we also talked about the power of hot and cold therapies.
We did.
Can you give me a quick recap of why those are so effective?
Sure. So cold therapy,
Okay.
think ice baths,
Okay.
or even just applying an ice pack to an injury helps constrict blood vessels,
Okay.
which reduces swelling and slows down the flow of those inflammatory chemicals to the area.
So it's like hitting the pause button on inflammation.
Exactly.
Now, heat therapy, like a warm bath or a heating pad,
Right.
that does the opposite.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
Heat increases blood flow to the area, which helps flush out inflammatory substances and brings in nutrients to support healing.
So cold reduces and heat clears.
Yeah, you got it.
What about contrast therapy?
Contrast therapy is great. It's like giving your circulatory system a workout.
Okay.
It helps pump out those inflammatory substances and reduce swelling.
So it's great for like recovery after exercise or an injury.
Exactly.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of inflammation and how to approach it.
Good, I'm glad.
We've talked about so many strategies: diet, exercise, sleep, stress management, supplements, gut health. Those ancient practices we talked about, hot and cold therapy, even fasting,
It's a lot.
it's a lot.
Oh.
It can feel overwhelming to think about implementing all of it.
It can.
What would you say are the most important takeaways for our listeners?
Well, you don't have to do everything at once.
Okay, that's good.
Start small, pick one or two things that resonate with you, and focus on making those changes consistently.
Okay, don't get overwhelmed.
Right. Small, consistent changes are much more sustainable
Right.
and effective in the long run.
What else should our listeners keep in mind as they're embarking on this journey?
Well, remember that everybody is different.
That's true.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Yeah.
So it's about experimenting, listening to your body, and finding what feels best for you.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to health.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to seek guidance from a healthcare professional if you need help figuring out what's right for you.
Great point. This deep dive has been absolutely incredible. I'm so grateful for your time and expertise.
My pleasure. It's been fun.
Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up?
Just remember, knowledge is power.
I like that.
By understanding how inflammation works and what you can do to influence it, you're taking control of your health and well-being.
Right.
It's a journey, not a destination.
That's a good way to put it.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep taking care of yourself.
Beautifully said. A huge thank you to our expert for joining us today and sharing all of your wisdom with us.
Thanks for having me.
And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in to this deep dive into the world of inflammation. We hope you learned something new and feel inspired to tame the flame in your own life. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay well.